Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. I was on Facebook yesterday when I ran into an article on the New York Post. And in this incident which took place in Chicago, a 19-year-old man, Leroy Battle, allegedly shot two teenage boys after they asked him how tall he was and expressed the hope that they could become as tall as he was. And when I take a critical examination of this incident which happened in Chicago, I see yet another incident that fits right in line with the pattern and profile I talked about in my book, The Man Crisis. And from the behaviors your Leroy Battle is alleged to have participated in, I see yet another textbook beta male who participated in the most extreme of the spectrum of violent behaviors I talked about in my book, The Man Crisis. And in this incident, your Leroy Battle clearly showed beta male behavior based on his actions, because when I take a critical examination of his actions, they show me that he lived in a rose-colored world, and when he had to deal with the reality of people expressing opinions about him, he did not know how to navigate through his emotions, and he took a compliment as an insult and then used that insult as a motivation to go out here and participate in the most extreme of the spectrum of violent behaviors that beta males participate in. Now, this incident could have gone on without any sort of violence if your Leroy Battle had some sort of father in his life or some male life skills, because clearly this young man came from a single mother household, because we see, based on his actions, he was acting on emotion and not logic. And the reason why I say he was acting on his emotions was because he entered this store where these two young men were. That they were in here buying some candy at this store. And most 19-year-old guys, and I've been 19 myself, when I see younger guys who are like 16, 17, I don't take anything that they say seriously, because usually these are just kids, and with children, you understand that they usually don't know any better when they're out here and they're saying something. But because this young man had not been taught male life skills and the ability to, again, one, be able to navigate through their emotions, whereas you are feeling about something but you do not act on it, and you think critically about what people are saying to you, he decided to take what these two young men said as personal, got caught up in his emotions, and thought that it was an insult, and then decided to act on impulse, not thinking about the consequences of his actions. And when he acted on impulse, took out that weapon and decided to shoot and murder 17-year-old Jay Sean Francis and Charles Riley, who was 16-year-old, allegedly, over to asking him how tall he was, this young man, this Leroy Battle, did not think about his long-term future. And that's par for the course when it comes down to these beta males. These beta males spend most of their time feeling about things that they don't think about their consequences long-term and how this will have an impact on their own future. No, they're all about trying to get those people who hurt them right now, the same way their single mothers want to get people who hurt them, like their child's father or the boyfriends in their lives, because this is the model that these beta males usually follow, and this is what your Leroy Battle was following as related to this incident where he thought he was being insulted. And again, he was 6'3", and these two young men only wanted to pay this man a compliment, and they wanted to show him respect. But this beta male could not understand that somebody who he thought was showing him respect was disrespect, and he decided that this was the reason for him going out to do harm to these two young boys who, again, were just doing what teenage boys usually do. But you can't do what teenage boys usually do in a society filled with beta males, because beta males don't know how to deal with the real world. Beta males don't know how to deal with real life, and beta males escalate situations that are harmless into great tragedies. And that's what we have here with this incident with your Leroy Battle. He had escalated a harmless incident that any other man would have just brushed off and would have smiled at those young men and said, I hope you do become as tall as I am. They would have brushed it off and took it as nothing. But the beta male, he just does not know how to process information. He does not know how to deal with real life situations, and he winds up just doing things that wind up doing harm to others instead of doing things that improve people's quality of life. And again, I look at this incident and it fits right in line with the pattern and profile I talked about in the man crisis as related to the spectrum of violent behaviors that beta males participate in. And this incident shows me what happens when you have a male who does not have a father in his life to teach him how to carry and conduct himself in social situations, or how to think critically in a social situation as related to people saying things that you either don't like or disagree with. A man who has a father in his life is going to teach him that words should not escalate into violence, and if somebody is saying something you don't like, you just try to politely just deal with the situation and move on. Because if they're not putting hands on you, then it's not a dangerous situation. And this situation, again, was where you had a man who just did not have proper male life skills, proper socialization, and even basic socialization, because any other guy would have looked at that situation and just brushed it off, smiled at those kids and said, I do hope you become as tall as I am, and they would have let that be their day, because they understood that there are more important things than getting into it with a pair of kids who don't know any better. They would have understood that there are intangibles that are far more important than your feelings about what somebody says. These intangibles like your personal safety and your freedom, because that's what your Leroy Battle sacrificed when he went out here and acted on impulse, pulled out that weapon, and decided to murder these two teenage boys. He sacrificed things that were far more valuable as related to his intangibles of his manhood, all because he was in his feelings for a minute about a situation where he felt insulted. And now he has cost himself his own freedom for the rest of his life, because it's guaranteed that he's going to get double life sentences for murdering these two young black boys, and he's going to be in prison for the rest of his life, where they're going to turn that tight end into a wide receiver, and he's going to be getting beat down practically every day. And he didn't think about that when he went out here and acted on impulse. He didn't understand that he was going to, while he was taking the lives of these boys for insulting him, he was going to lose his own life and his own freedom over something that really didn't matter at the end of the day. And that's the saddest part about many of these males in crisis who participate in this spectrum of violent behaviors. they never think about their futures because they're caught up in the now, and they're not thinking about the later critically, to the point where they say, hey, I don't want to take this risk with my life where it costs me things that are more important to me, like my health, my safety, and my freedom, because this 19-year-old man had his whole life ahead of him, and now he has no future because he threw it away because he didn't have the guidance and support of other men in the community to teach him about manhood, to teach him about male life skills, and to teach him how to carry and conduct himself in social situations. I've seen this type of situation happen so many times in my life growing up here in the South Bronx, and how oftentimes guys wind up destroying their lives all because somebody said something innocent and this offended a guy, or they did something that offended a guy, and because these males didn't understand that there are more important things in life that you don't get yourself into trouble over, they wind up destroying not only the life of the person they take, they wind up destroying their own lives because they don't understand how to control their temper and have the discipline to be able to brush things off and just say, okay, he's saying something, I may not like what he's saying, but I'm going to just deal with it and then let God do whatever happens. And I'm not going to take this personally. I'm just going to go on with my day because my freedom is more important to me and my safety is more important to me than getting even with this guy based on what he said, because what he said should not lead to me taking action that does harm to me and destroys my life. That's what a critical thinking man is going to say to himself whenever he runs into people who say things he doesn't like or disagrees with. He's going to walk away from those situations because he understands the importance of having his safety and his freedom. Now, I look at this incident and I see yet another incident in America's man crisis, a crisis that continues to get worse each passing day because so many boys are growing up without fathers, and they're growing up without the life skills a father teaches that prepare his son for the world, a world filled with people with different opinions, filled with people with different viewpoints, and filled with people who will say things that you may not possibly like, that may offend you, but you have to learn how to deal with people when they're saying those things, because you have to learn that these are just words, and words should not lead to you taking action to do harm to them or do more harm to yourself, because they're just words, and at the end of the day, you just have to let the words go in one ear and out the other so you can go on and continue to have the freedom to do the things you enjoy in your life. If you want to learn more about the types of behaviors that beta males like your Leroy Battle is alleged to have participated in, and what leads to these boys participating in the spectrum of violent behaviors, and learn how to stop participating in that spectrum of violent behaviors, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle formats. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available for the first time on Google Play, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are falling apart in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy on Google Play today.